right, if you've made it this far, you have successfully watched us remove the intercooler piping, the starter, the slave cylinder. We've removed the pivot fork, pivot rod, I guess is what I would call it. We've removed the upper downpipe bolts. We've disconnected our battery before we did all of that, just to make sure we don't arc anything out, of course. That's always the most important thing when you start something like this. And what we're going to do next is lift the car up. We got to remove the front axles. We have to remove the drive shaft. We have to remove the downpipe and probably some of the rest of the exhaust. We also need to remove the rest of the bell housing bolts, cross members, so on and so forth. And we're going to be able to show you all that in a quick, 10 seconds worth of video. And then we'll discuss where we move from there, which is going to be the actual clutch installation. So stay tuned. All right, so we've got the transmission out, which you can see behind you. It's a very large transmission. And what you see here is actually the old clutch pressure plate, and behind it, and this is your release bearing. You can see all the buildup on there from the clutch material. And we're gonna go ahead and pull this apart and inspect our slippage. So Ben, go ahead and zip those 9 bolts out of there. And just so everybody knows, this is actually the OEM manufacturer installed clutch, which is really impressive because this car has like 90,000 miles on it, and it's got like 400 horsepower. So that's a great life out of a factory style clutch. There you go. Yep, there you go. Yeah, there you go. All right, flip it around. Let's set it down. You can see how worn it is, especially in comparison to the new one, but we're getting really close to the rivets that bind it all to the metal sheet that's on the inside. Yeah, she was pretty well toasted. Not the worst that I've seen, definitely needed. And you can see all these heat marks. That's indication of excessive heat. And I wish you could see this in the video, but you can feel each one of these little marks. You can actually feel differences in the height and the texture of the material. And then those same very similar marks are going to be on your flywheel as well. And that's why we always replace everything. If you don't replace the flywheel or the pressure plate, all of those imperfections are just going to transfer over to your new clutch disc, and that's the friction material. So all of these items have to mate together, and that's why the break-in process, which we'll go over a little bit later, is so important to get the proper life expectancy out of your new clutch setup. And then once we get this off, we're going to go in there, reseal the backside of the engine because we're in there, and it's just preventative measures because we don't want to go back in there again if it has a rear main oil seal leaking or something like that. So we just do it all in one shot. Voila. Now that the flywheel is off, of course, that's going to go right in the scrap bin. But you can see this little buildup right here, and it's kind of dark and kind of dusty around the rear main seal, which is this part right here. This is the actual crankshaft, and this is the seal that keeps all of the engine oil inside of the block. And then you've got an oil galley cover and a wrist pin cover right there. But you can see this buildup right here, and that's indicative of the seal actually seeping just a little bit, enough to collect clutch material. So we go ahead and we pop that out. We put a new one in, and we've got a special tool for that as well. And then we start the process all back over again in reverse. So there's a little spot in the seal right here where the little lip is.
Okay.
And I come in at an angle, at a downward motion, so that I clear the crank.
Okay.
Voila. The little indent in the pressure plate needs to be 120 degrees clockwise from that at least.
Okay.
So basically, you know, you're 180 degrees here. So as long as it's somewhere in here or more, then you're good. I try to get it as close to 180 as possible. Oh, shoot. Push on it. Yeah, okay. There's the hole. Now, where'd my dot go? I lost my dot. Oh, it's right there. Okay, cool. So, where? There. Just needed to find the dowels.
That's these new bolts.
Yep. New Subaru bolts. So, as I don't know if you'll be able to see, but we're still a quarter inch away from the actual flywheel. And as we snug these up, we're going to do it in a crisscross pattern, and this, you'll see this start to move out because it's putting tension on it.
All right. And then I like to go just make sure that I touched them all. See, I missed that one. So that's also why we paint marker them though. Done. Cool.
Put new acclimates and gas on that too.
Yeah. There's a lot of different greases that you can use to grease up your splines and your throw-up bearing contact points and your pivot fork and things like that, your release fork. But we use this stuff that's actually from Japan, overnighted from Japan. And this is actually the Subaru stuff that they use. Well, that's what they tell you to use, so that's why we use it.
All right, if you've made it through this far, then you are familiar with everything that we've done. We've just added new Motul Gear 300 to our transmission, and now we're going to give it our test drive, and then the client can break in the clutch and be on his way.